Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Royal Blue Podcast. I'm Ian Kroll, joined by the Echo's Everton FC reporter Chris Beasley. It is Tuesday morning, and there is plenty of Everton news to get through. First off, before we get into all that news, let's say hello to Chris. Chris, how are things? All good?
Oh, good, thanks. Yeah, like you say, it's just still morning, so I hope along with all the transfer rumblings, you don't get any rumblings in my stomach before those
Well,
those famous butties get et.
yeah, we are a little bit late. We did plan to come on here at 11:30. Then we did plan to come on here at 11:45, so we are a little bit late after that. So I do apologise. We are trying our best with everything else that we've got to do to be on time with our live streams. But you obviously know the first question I'm going to ask you, Chris. What have you got on your butties today? I know Emma, if she is going to be on the stream in the comments.
She'll want to know, won't she? I think what it's actually called, I'll describe it. It's that Italian ham that has the pistachios in it, you know.
Wow. It's getting more like Mediterranean as a...
I think we went to Aldi last week, or Lidl, can't remember which one it was.
I like the sound of the chorizo one, to be honest. That sounded good.
Yeah, so it's whatever that is. So maybe one of the viewers will come in and actually tell us what the official Italian name is, that, or they can Google it. But yeah, it's that one, the one with the pistachios in it.
Well, it is 8 minutes till 12 o'clock, which means sandwich time. So are you going to be okay not eating your sandwiches at 12 o'clock today?
I don't know. We'll just have to get on with it when we go rattle through.
We will rattle through. We have got plenty of news as discussed. So today's agenda, we're going to discuss the news that Everton are actively planning on having Jarrad Branthwaite with them next season as Manchester United turn their attention to Bayern Munich's Matthijs de Ligt and other options. We are live on YouTube, so please get your thoughts and opinions in, get your questions in. They are very much welcome. We love the interaction and we love and appreciate the support that you show the podcast, as well as give us a like, give us a share, and always subscribe to the show. Subscribe, and obviously you get notifications when we do go live. And as always, if you prefer not to see mine and Chris's ugly mugs on the screen, we will be putting this podcast on Apple Pods and Spotify within the hour following on from this podcast finishing off. So yeah, Chris, we are going to talk about Jarrad Branthwaite, but before we went on here, we had a little bit of breaking news. Everton have signed a player on a free, a player released from Arsenal. He is a forward, he is 18, and he is a Welsh international, Amari Benjamin. Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously still waiting on the alien and dire announcement. I understand that, that one is close. As far as I understand, it's done, and hopefully that one will be coming soon. But yeah, Amari Benjamin, obviously tempered by the fact that he's not one who you expect to come straight into the first team fold with Sean Dyche sort of challenging the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Beto, or even Yusuf Chamiti for a place. But London lad, been at Arsenal, but like you say, Welsh under-18s international. I believe his father was Welsh. And he's already turned out in the Royal Blue jersey. He had a trial spell at Everton last season, which obviously been deemed successful when they knew that his time with Arsenal was coming to a close. Arsenal allowed him to play a few games for Everton, and he's obviously done enough to impress Kevin Fairwell and the staff there with the academy that he's worth a go, a player for the future. I mean, Everton notoriously short on when it comes to academy talents at the moment. I think Sean Dyche actually went on record with it last season when he discussed the fact that when Everton were on that long winless streak, why he wasn't looking at maybe blooding more youngsters. And he said, to be honest, that there was nobody knocking on the door. So hopefully he's going to improve the quality, the depth they've got in the academy side there, and continue his development with obviously under likes of Leighton Baines or Paul Tate if he's in the under-21s next season.
We've literally had a comment straight off the bat. Trev the Blue on YouTube, obviously seeing him in action.
Okay.
Benjamin did well in his trial game. So for the under-21s, so a decent signing. Obviously one for the future. We don't think he's going to be, placed in the first team action as, in the first couple of games, do we?
No, but obviously there's obviously a pathway there for him to progress. I mean, remember when Dominic Calvert-Lewin first came into the club, he'd only had, obviously he's a bit further than Benjamin was in his development, but a clutch of appearances for Sheffield United, hadn't been a regular there, been loaned out to Northampton, and sometimes work on these players, they can come good in the end. And it was similar with Ellis Sims. He was a bit younger, but he came to the Everton Academy late and then ended up having a bit of a go down and ended scoring his Premier League goal at Chelsea and then earning the club a lot of money when he was sold to Coventry. So yeah, one for the future, but it's another signing over the line.
Okay, so a little bit of breaking news there regarding Amari Benjamin. New signing for Everton, and hopefully an exciting prospect. Definitely one for the future. Emma has just joined the stream, so she's obviously missed what you just said. So what delights has Mrs. Beasley prepared today? So it's, in Chris's words, an Italian ham pistachio. Is that what you said? Pistachio?
Yeah, it's got the pistachio nuts in there. Yeah, ingrained into the ham.
It sounds good. My stomach is already rumbling myself.
You hungry now?
To be honest. Okay, Branthwaite then. A little bit of a update with regards to this. You've written a piece, Chris, this morning, which you can read on the Liverpool Echo website. I'm going to just read a couple of lines from it so people are aware. Obviously, we know Everton are desperate not to sell Branthwaite. PSR deadline has passed. Ball is kind of in Everton's court. But so 3 lines from Chris's piece. Everton are pushing ahead with plans to keep Jarrad Branthwaite as Manchester United turn their attentions elsewhere. Dutch publication The Telegraaf reports that Manchester United have offered the Netherlands international de Ligt a 5-year contract as they continue talks with Bundesliga giants. An offer from United last month of 35 million plus add-ons for Jarrad Branthwaite was deemed unacceptable by Everton and rejected out of hand, with the Blues maintaining they will not be bullied into selling their most valuable asset on the cheap, with claims of a Goodison Park, quote, fire sale this summer wide of the mark. So, yeah, Chris, do you want to just go into your piece a little bit and then we can obviously just discuss?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and never say never, but it looks like a real piece of positivity for Everton. Hopefully, that they've certainly won the battle in terms of the first part of the summer, because you know if Jarrad Branthwaite does go anywhere at any point now, it's going to be on Everton's terms, and they hope that he's going to be there. They expect him to be there for the start of the season, Goodison's historic final season. Before the stadium move, and you know Everton are planning for Jarrad Branthwaite to be part of that. I mean, it's been United have been interested in him for a while now. There were people coming to me, I think early last month, and I was told that they thought that they were going to do this deal. United were confident they were going to get him over the line. They thought they were going to get him by the end of June. This was before the Euros as well. We expected him to go to the Euros. He didn't get the call in the end from Gareth Southgate. And in a way, that potentially opened things up for United, because the fact that the FA have sort of banned players from interacting in terms of like doing deals, and clubs doing that while the tournament's on. I mean, it would have actually been harder for anyone to do a deal if he'd have been called up for England, but he wasn't. So that freed up United to go and pursue him. And at the time, they were confident. But I think I don't know if they're playing games in terms of. See, they got the new owner there, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and you've spoken about him on the podcast there and all what he's up to. He's one of these people, I guess, in a way you could say there's a lot of owners like this, like Farhad Moshiri. They've been successful in business and they find football actually quite different. And it's not these very rich men yet used to getting their own way, and they come in at the risery offer, really, their opening offer when the transfer window opened. You can say, oh, well, it's their opening offer, but start low. But, to come in and offer 35 million plus add-ons for Branthwaite, rejected out of hand. And now Everton are at the point now. It's clear that they don't need to sell. They've got through to June. That's the end of the financial year. They're hoping that the sales of Ben Godfrey, Lewis Donovan will put them okay in terms of PSR. I mean, so if United or anyone else come calling now, all the cards are with Everton in this respect now. He's a contracted player until 2027, I think, off the top of my head. They only signed that fresh deal back in the autumn, and Everton want him there, and it's going to take a mega offer for him to be priced away. And in terms of the club's valuation, I think they're quite right in this respect. They look at the other deals, the fact that United paid 80 million for Harry Maguire, and then they look at the other players, for Farner, who's moved on, and other young centre backs of that ilk, and they see Branthwaite in that same sort of bracket. So Yeah, I think it should be applauded that Everton certainly have won the battle so far now. And if Jarrad Branthwaite does go anywhere at any point, it's going to be on Everton's terms, and they are intending on him staying in the Royal Blue jersey, certainly for now.
I mean, the focus has obviously very much been United, Branthwaite, Everton. Is there a concern? I mean, and again, your piece again was focused more on United and what they want with regards to a defender. But is there a concern now moving forward, following on from the PSR deadline, that other teams could potentially come in? Obviously, we're not actively trying to sell Branthwaite, but we've discussed in the past on previous podcasts that effectively now this PSR deadline, it's 2 transfer windows because some teams are desperate to sell, other teams have been quite quiet. Now other big players might come into the fore. Is there a concern now that it won't just be United? Obviously we want to keep him, but effectively a bid more you would expect to push his valuation up even further.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I said, a concern. There was, in I think the last couple of days, there's been a bit of talk of Manchester City, but I don't know how substantial.
Do they need a central defender?
Well, that's what I think. I don't know if there's much substance in it. It's maybe one who they're keeping their eyes on. I mean, all the top clubs in world football should have their eye on Jarrad Branthwaite. It's not like I'm hawking around now, but I'm just stating the obvious here. I think Seamus Coleman said that himself at the end of last season when I spoke to him at the Emirates. He says, you can't hide a talent like Jarrad Branthwaite for too long, and it's obvious. Us who have seen him on a regular basis, been fortunate enough to do that last season, know that he's potentially a generational talent. He's ahead of where John Stones was at that age. He's got that physical presence. John Stones and has gone on to be a world-class centre-back and as a great ball-playing defender. But Branthwaite as a physical specimen to sort of add to that. He's a man mountain, and he can, he's got the biggest, baddest strikers in the Premier League bouncing off him. But he can play as well, so he's just got absolutely everything. I think Marcel Brand said that to me when I spoke to him earlier in the season. Now, obviously he was the director of football who brought him as a young lad from Carlisle United. Only made a clutch of appearances for them in League Two, so he obviously saw something from him at a very young age. Obviously he's had to develop that at Everton and on loan at PSV, where he was reunited with Brands, but just came back. He was an absolute revelation last season. And yeah, of course the biggest clubs in the world are going to be looking at him, but I don't see, as far as I understand, there's nobody else him, and it does seem to be United have very much been the ones this summer who are going to make a move. You never know who could make a move at any point, and things change all the time in football. But no, it's not like I'm overly concerned that somebody else is going to come in now, and whoever it is, they're going to have to pay top dollar, and that's what Everton have been saying all along, really. I mean, this idea that like I said, some unscrupulous outfits were almost saying, Everton were on the verge of going bust earlier this summer. We're not seeing that after months of being told it was 777 or no one. Of course, they were out the way, and then we got quite a lot of reputable people coming in bidding for the club. And even though that's yet to be resolved, and obviously the exclusivity period that the Freaking Group are going through at the moment, that doesn't help Everton this window. But we are seeing hopefully a brighter future for Everton, and they can certainly dictate the terms on this one now. If somebody comes in for Jarrad Branthwaite, and I've said myself, if I was Manchester United, I'd pay the 80 million, and I think they'd be getting, I don't know if bargain's possibly too strong a word, but certainly it's going to be worth more in the future if he continues on his current trajectory. So yeah, that can always happen, but at the moment it's not like there are a load of clubs who we think are sort of lining up for him. It was United with the main contenders, and like you're saying, Matthijs, Ligt. I mean, obviously David Ornstein is incredibly well connected, and he emphasises that the 2 deals are independent of each other. It's not like one's linked to the other, but I just don't see from a PSR perspective. If United are going in for the Ligt, they're not going to be able to get Branthwaite as well this window, and they'll certainly be penny pinching so far in terms of their pursuit of him. So yeah, at the moment it seemed that it's United or nothing, but they were the main contenders, and they're looking elsewhere now, and they've not shown any sort of indication that they were willing to pay anything towards what Everton's fee is. And like I said, with the end of the financial year now, with June passing into July, Everton hold all the cards now.
I mean, a lot's been made of Branthwaite's valuation, maybe more so than any other player over the past couple of years. Each club, Everton, United, want the best deal for their club, and we get that. You've just suggested 80 million there. I mean, let's take our blue tinted glasses off.
Yeah.
What is his value? And it's not, I suppose, it's his value to Everton, really, because obviously if we're going to sell him, we're going to have to spend, we're going to have to replace, and we've also got which is our understanding that Carlisle have got a clause in there, a 15% sell-on clause. So, you're taking 15% off on top of what Everton are going to recoup. So, you said 80 million. Is that where you would say draw the line and say that's what the valuation is?
Given what I've been told by, when speaking to people connected with the club, I'd imagine it's in that ballpark. Those are the sort of deals that have been mentioned. And like I said, the Fofana deal, the Maguire deal, I think that's where they see his valuation. But I think if he has another season where he kicks on even further, and given that there is a premium around left-sided defenders, left-sided centre-backs, English homegrown talent in the future, I don't think it's fanciful say that he could command 100 million fee. He could, Grealish has gone for that money. He's not even at the Euros. Declan Rice as well, 2 English players there, have both gone for over 100 million. I think if Branthwaite continues to progress and get better the way he builds on what he did last season, if he, like I said, kicks on again next season, there's no reason why you can't even be talking about 100 million fee. But I think at the moment, I think that's why I said if I was United, I'd just paid that 80 million and maybe they could have got a deal over the line. But they've not shown any sort of indication that they're willing to go anywhere near that. And whether that's Ratcliffe thinking, I'm the big man here, I'm going to come in and play hardball. The days of paying over the odds for Harry Maguire have gone now. We're going to show them. But but they've been sort of left looking silly, really, because Everton just said, well, no. I mean, it was actually shades of. I remember when Moyes left and came back in for Moyes and for Fellaini and Baines, and they offered like a derisory fee for those two together, and then they ended up buying Fellaini on his own for I think just slightly less than what they'd offered for the two players together in the first place. So shades of that when they came in and offered 35 million plus add-ons. It was absolutely ridiculous and was never going to get accepted for Everton. I mean, hopefully it's a moot point now because, like I said, Everton don't want to sell. They're preparing for next season, thinking that Branthwaite's going to be part of their squad. We can all pluck figures out the air, but I would imagine that would be where the club's valuation is looking at about the 80 million mark. Although, like I said, I believe if he continues the way he has done, that can only go up, hopefully, in the future.
I mean, it was a derisory offer, no doubt, but you can only assume that United thought Everton were desperate to sell before the June 30th deadline, and tried the hand, and obviously they've, like you said, they've ran off with the tails between their legs, looking a little bit stupid, to be honest, haven't they? Couple of comments then. So Emma said he's worth well more than 80 to us, which you've kind of agreed with. Certainly if he has another good season, Everton's position in the league only gets better. You never know what's going to happen. Another comment here says give Jarrad another contract, 109k a week. He's only on 30k. Try to keep him until we move to Bramley Moor. I don't know the finer details of his contract and what he earns, but he was offered a new deal, wasn't he? Which he did sign at the beginning of last season.
In the autumn, he signed one. I would imagine that would be one thing I would say is that hopefully that he does stay. Then it might be the case that he signs another new contract again and gets rewarded for his form. Because given that we are sort of saying that he's worth these kind of fees now, maybe he'll be getting wages to match. Like I said, I can't actually go into the figures because I don't know what the actual figures are, and I wouldn't be disclosing stuff like that anyway. But I'd imagine that certainly the Branthwaite camp you would think would be pushing for an improved terms if he stays, which hopefully he does.
I mean, again, I just feel that Everton is the right place for him to develop at this moment in time. Some players like to be fast-tracked, obviously, with the law of more money, European football, etc. Although we agree that he's going to be a fantastic player, we know it's all potential. He effectively had one season in the Premier League, but another good season for PSV. We know how much they actually wanted to keep Branthwaite, in Holland. I just think stay with Sean Dyche, stay with Tarkowski for another season. Develop your game. and then that gives you a clear pathway for an England call up or a consistent England call up for the World Cup, obviously in 2026. I'm only the reason I'm saying this, Chris, is I know you can't get in someone's head, but the positive thing for me is he doesn't seem to like he's kicked off and wanted this move straight away. He's not a local lad, so he's not got any real affinity to the club. He's obviously up further north, Carlisle. So it's kind of like he's not an Everton supporter as such. So you couldn't really blame him as such for maybe if Manchester United come calling. But do you think that is in his head as well? He's had a really good season at Everton. Let's stay with the club maybe for one more, even 2 years, and develop further, and let's see where we go from there. From his point of view,
I definitely think so. I think that, like you said, even if we take our Everton hats off or blue tinting glasses, whatever you want to call it, I actually genuinely believe it would be good for Jarrad Branthwaite's development to certainly stay for one more year at Everton. I'd love to see him stay another 2 years at Everton and go into the new stadium. I think that he certainly wouldn't be holding himself back doing that, and then the World Cup be his oyster then. Then who knows, if Everton improve, maybe he doesn't have to go anywhere. But United's been in a very toxic environment, and I don't necessarily think that would be a great move for him. I mean, see, so Jim made those, what was it, the top six remarks, which were very controversial. They weren't even in the top six. Okay, they won the FA Cup in the end. But all that's been going on there at United, the players who've been sort of swallowed up after big moves and haven't worked out for them. You even have to look, we talked about him already on here. Harry Maguire, world record fee for a centre-back, and look what happened to him, and the way things have gone for him at United. I mean, if he wasn't for injury, maybe he'd want to have been one of Gareth Southgate's main men for England now, but it's certainly not gone the way he wanted for it at United. And as an even younger player than him, Jarrad Branthwaite, only just starting out, like you said, as well as he's done. He's only had the 1 year in the Premier League. He doesn't have to jump at these opportunities. I don't think he ever was sort of pushing for it. If Everton have made it clear that that their players will only leave this summer if the price is right and the player himself wants to go, and I don't think Jarrad was ever pushing for it. But the Evertonians, ultimately, they know Branthwaite's value. They've seen him. They appreciate him. I remember going with Joe to Old Trafford earlier in the season, the day after United beat Everton 2-0. And I've told this tale a few times, but I think it's sort of there's a point in it. The stadium announcer actually called him Jarrad Branthwaite. He couldn't even say the fella's name correctly. So this was the one who was being touted for the big money move to United, and their stadium announcer doesn't even really know who he is. Whereas we know all about Jarrad Branthwaite, not Jarrad Branthwaite as the United fella called him. But I'm sure FC Eriksson Haag knows who he is. But he's appreciated at Everton, and he can continue his development in the right environment. It's a very toxic environment at times at United, and obviously it can be difficult for him. So, I genuinely believe, Evertonian or not Evertonian, I think if I'm just looking at this, I think Branthwaite, I've almost called him Braithwaite myself now. Branthwaite be better off staying at Everton, certainly for 1 more year, and I'd absolutely love it if he could stay for that second year and play in the new stadium.
I mean, the uncertainty around the United manager Ten Hag anyway, like you said, it's been toxic. You don't just get rid of that toxicity and poisonous, atmosphere within a football club over a summer, or just signing one player. I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone by Christmas, Ten Hag. Let's face it, how long did it take them to do this internal footballing review? It was kind of embarrassing, and I think the only reason that he didn't get sacked was because certain managers turned United down, and he won the FA Cup, and you could say give him another season on that. But I actually don't think he's actually a bad manager, Ten Hag. But I just think he's facing a losing battle, and I don't think Jarrad Branthwaite needs to be within that environment.
Yeah, going into that, like you said, I mean, it was an absolute disaster zone, really. I mean, you said they kept him waiting around for a few weeks, and it was just. He'd gone to Ibiza. I think Sean Dyche went out to Ibiza for a while as well. I don't know if they ever spend any time with each other, but then they finally come to him, a delegation, and said, actually, we'll keep you on, because like you say, maybe some of the managers who we were trying to get didn't fancy it. If you're Jarrad Branthwaite, you don't want to be going into that environment. you don't know what's going to happen next. Manchester United, obviously one of the biggest clubs in the world, and great resources there. But yeah, they're not at the peak of their powers. They're not the great force they were under Sir Alex Ferguson. They've been struggling for over a decade now, since obviously David Moyes was the first to come in there, and those numerous managers who have tried and failed to restore them to the former glories. They're not. It's not like, when Manchester United came in for Rio Ferdinand a couple of decades ago. It's far from that sort of environment. Or even Wayne Rooney, obviously going from Everton to Manchester United on the back of his heroics at Euro 2004. Obviously, when he went from being Wayne, as it were, to the new national treasure, and it's a very sort of different environment now at United, and obviously the stadium issue and all the nonsense over that, and so you don't know what you're going into there. It's a very sort of in a state of flux, and and despite the FA Cup win, far from being at the peak of their powers. So maybe it's a good one for him just to continue. I mean, we talked about that, obviously, with all the mess at Everton, but hopefully Everton are turning the corner now, and obviously, like you say, alongside someone like James Tarkowski. After Arsenal, they kept the most clean sheets in the Premier League last season. Got Jordan Pickford behind him as well. So, it'd be plenty of good reasons to stick where he is now and hopefully continue his development. And if he's got the world at his feet, really, if he continues on that trajectory and there's time for a big move in the future, Jarrad Branthwaite's going to get it.
Well, keep your questions coming in for those who are watching live. I'll read some out now. So, Gary Pring has said Man United can't even afford to fix their leaking roof. So never mind, sign Jarrad Branthwaite. Trev the Blue says, you're right, lads. United, wrong place for him at the moment. Can't see him developing amongst the egos there. I don't want him to go, but just imagine him at City being developed by Pep. I mean, obviously, that's what I was trying to touch on earlier on. I don't think City need a central defender. I might be wrong, but not right now. But obviously, there are other teams. I mean, this is how good he is, Chris. Mm-hmm. Because for those who don't know, as part of my job, I also I don't appear on Liverpool podcasts, but I produce them for the Echo. And virtually in every single podcast, when they talk about transfers and players they want to sign or they wish to sign, the Liverpool reporters always bring up Jarrad Branthwaite. Yeah. So, that is a rarity when Liverpool associated reporters, Liverpool fans are looking glaringly, enviously at an Everton player and thinking, I would love that player, at Anfield for them. It's never going to happen. I would hope it never happens, but for me, that just shows how good he is and how good he's going to be.
Although, definitely. Although they've changed their tune, they've done a very quick about turn when it comes to Anthony Gordon.
There's another one.
There was that little diver in their eyes a couple of years ago. Yeah, they all love Gordon now. It's interesting. Who was obviously that's enough. We'll just go off on a tangent.
No, it's an interesting point.
No, but in terms, we go on about that PSR deadline and teams wanting to do deals. How desperate were Newcastle, by the way? They just look. They're hawking around their player of the season. Whatever we think about Anthony Gordon, and he's certainly never been shy of having a high opinion of himself. I remember interviewing him when he was an Everton player. It's good to be confident, and he certainly was. But he's come on leaps and bounds in that season at Newcastle. Don't think he did much the first, half a season there when he moved in the January window. But last season, he was their player of the season. And then for Newcastle to be like offering him around to all and sundry, and while he's at the Euros, wow! No wonder he fell off the bike. It's incredible. So it's taught his head's turned, and it's been interesting for Evertonians, the fact all the sort of glowing remarks he's made about Steven Gerrard since he's left Everton. But so Newcastle United, I couldn't believe it. Obviously, I was saying at the time when the deal was on the table for Dominic Calvert-Lewin and obviously Minter going in the other direction, and my contacts up in the northeast talking to them, and they were saying, given that Newcastle were valuing Minter at 40 million, they said, Calvert-Lewin plus a bit of money, that'd do the trick. And no wonder that one didn't happen. For as much as Minter's an exciting prospect who could do well in the future now, he's not even played a Premier League game yet. Brighton have ended up signing him in the end for 10 million less than what Newcastle was supposed to be offering to Everton demanding his price. So they've shaved a quarter off that price, which shows Newcastle were desperate. And Calvert-Lewin's a proven Premier League player. I think we went out through this on a previous podcast and his importance to Everton, but I don't think that would have been a good deal for Everton, even as exciting as a prospect Minter is. But yeah, going back to your original point, in terms
definitely
of
gone off a tangent there, didn't we?
in terms of Liverpool fans, but I know they'd love to have Branthwaite, and because they can see what everyone else can see. You know, he's the brightest defensive prospect in the country. Again, it's maybe go off another tangent here now about Gareth Southgate and his managerial ability, or lack of it, the fact that he overlooked him for the Euros. We've seen how England have been labouring with a very talented team, and obviously fortunate 30 seconds away from elimination before Jude Bellingham sort of saved him with a Pele-esque escape to victory wonder goal. But going back to your original point, like you said, they of course are going to see that with Branthwaite the same as everyone in football can, and you probably have to go a long way back for those across the park to be sort of talking about Everton players in such sort of reverence, really. I think the one who you always used to get back in the day was Neville Southall, and that's because he's the best goalkeeper in the world. But yeah, the fact that they're talking about that and Jarrad Branthwaite in a similar vein.
Just on Gordon, because the fact that we brought him up, it's my understanding that there's been reports saying Newcastle have now, adequately, brought in funds to sort out their PSR. But I've also been told that potentially they haven't, because they don't know. They don't know for a fact that is the case. But just on Gordon, they obviously were that desperate to, receive money and get revenue in. Is it from your point of view, is it because they were that desperate, or is there something about Gordon that they just thought, right, well, he's good, but he's not that good, and if we can cash in for 70, 80 million. I mean, let's face it, I think part of the deal was Quansah was going to be part of that deal as well.
Right, yeah.
I think that's one of the main reasons why it was knocked back from Liverpool. But I don't know. I mean, I think anyone would snap their hands off for 70, 80 million pounds for Anthony Gordon. I think, he's obviously come on a little bit, but I still don't think he's going to be a world-class player. I don't know what you think.
I don't know what's going on at Newcastle, to be honest. I don't know what. It's just, from my looking as an outsider, it just seems they're really sort of feeling the pinch with PSR. So whatever we think of the Saudis coming in and the massive wealth that they bring them, you can't do that anywhere more. The way that Manchester City did, the way Blackburn Rovers did back in the day with Jack Walker and the local businessman done good. You can't just have a sugar daddy come in anymore and give you blank cheques to sign. You've got to have the incomings as well and work within the PSR rules. I mean, probably one of the reasons why I think whatever happened to Everton or didn't happen to Everton, why PSR is flawed, because it just protects those who are, it's almost saying you who are the top six, as Sir Jim would say, even though his team aren't in there. You're always going to be there because nobody else can sort of move through that glass ceiling. So I don't know what's going on at Newcastle. I don't know. From what I've heard, Gordon's head has been turned for all this, and you can't blame him. And
no, but to be honest, ever since he's gone to Newcastle, I felt like he's always been on a charm offensive with Liverpool.
Yeah.
And not desperate to leave, but always keeping that open. If I was Newcastle fans, I wouldn't be happy with that. I mean, Gary Pring straight in the comments, Gordon is a cop-height, which, obviously, I think it was maybe unknown what his affiliation with the clubs at the time when he was playing for us.
I think it was played down. I mean, it's just a weird one, really, because us, I was going to say, as fans, as journalists, it's always the strange one, isn't it? Like Jamie Carragher going from being a boy blue to being a Liverpool one-club man and a Liverpool legend. Then in reverse, you got people like Peter Reid, who's a boyhood copite, but is now as blue as they come. It's the sort of the ultimate taboo for us as outsiders looking in, saying, I know it's only a job, but how can you do that? How can you go from one to the other? But despite being at Everton from a very young age, it seems obvious that Gordon hasn't sort of had that knocked out of his system, really. And no. It's certainly, I remember seeing this with Jose Baxter. It was quite concerning, really, when after he left Everton, he went to Oldham Athletic, and he was telling all and sundry, because I think Oldham drew Liverpool in the FA Cup, how he'd remained a cop-eye all along, and he was Everton's youngest player, and all that Everton had done for him to be coming out with that comment. And it's sort of, obviously, on a lesser scale, you're seeing that with Anthony Gordon now, like you say, always leaving that door ajar, and comments about how everyone on Liverpool, respects Steven Gerrard and whatever he said about him. So yeah, it's quite rich, really, coming from somebody who had been at Everton for such a long length of time. But it seems that those red roots are coming back to the fore for Anthony Gordon, and I think he certainly fancies it. I don't quite know how a deal gets done at the moment, and Liverpool, from that point, we've turned to Blood Red podcast there, in danger of. But yeah, I'm not too sure how a deal gets done, but it's certainly, I think that Gordon would fancy the move. But yeah, whether he's at that level, I don't know. He has come on a ton and leaps and bounds. And we kind of knew that at Everton, but he couldn't even. Let's remember, he couldn't even get in a very bad Everton side when he left. He wasn't even in the side, so he's obviously come on a ton since then. But yeah, I don't know. It's not for me to say on the Royal Blue podcast whether he's the solution to Liverpool's issues.
No, we'll move on from Gordon then. Obviously, it is a talking point within, online and stuff like that. I'll try and refer back to some comments. We'll finish off on the Branthwaite point then.
Mm-hmm.
So Ian Clark, another commenter, said he agrees with us, just as what we were speaking about before. Yeah. Manchester United would break him. I mean, final thoughts then on Branthwaite before we kind of move on, because I think I said this the other day in one of the pods. It's great. Everything that's happened, the ball is ultimately in Everton's court now, or so it seems.
Mm-hmm.
If an offer comes in, it's going to have to be, gargantuan. It's going to have to be a massive offer. But the last thing that we want now is for an offer to come in, the week of the transfer deadline, which then would give us little time to find a replacement. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure Kevin Thelwell, Sean Dyche have got a list of replacements should the worst happen. But going into a full pre-season with, Branthwaite and Tarkowski as your two main centre-backs, your partnership, preparing for the new season, they're already a fantastic partnership together. But then, Everton almost need to put a deadline on, even if the biggest offer comes in for Branthwaite ever, but for like 100 million, just to say, well, it's a week before the transfer deadline. We can't accept that. It's too late.
Yeah, I don't know what you say is the cut off, but for me, I think Everton have won the battle here. The fact that we've got to the end of June, we're now into July, the end of that financial year. That's the important thing for me. So it's up to Everton now to make their decisions. And from what we understand, they want him to stay there. They're planning for him to be there. That's what they expect. They've got the power in this now. With June turning into July, nobody's going to come in, catch Everton with the pants down and put a silly bid, which was never going to be the case anyway. Everton, to be fair, had always insisted, like I said, all this talk of the fire sale and the fact that United coming in offering silly money from the respect that, like, not enough. Everton have got the power with this now. I don't know if you do say like there's a cut off or whatever. I think you never know, famous last words in football, but I think that ship looks like it's sailed now in terms of like United going in for Ligt. They've said all along that they had other irons in the fire and there are other sort of targets for them. I mean, it may be that they don't do a deal with Ligt and United come back again, but all the power is with Everton in terms of they can say what their asking price is for Jarrad Branthwaite, and if you don't pay it, you don't stump up the cash. Well, they're not gonna do a deal with you. So I think it's a big win for Everton now, and like I said, that the hope is that he just does he remains an Everton player for next season. But if he was to move, he'll be on Everton's terms, and that's the big difference compared to when we're in June, when there was always that nagging fear that would Everton have to sell and would it be for less than what he was worth, and it's not been the case.
Well, hopefully this is one of the last times we speak about Jarrad Branthwaite over the next couple of weeks, and the next time we do speak about him will be because he's been included in Everton's starting lineup for Brighton, and has scored a goal or had a fantastic game. So, I'm sure we haven't heard the end of it, but fingers crossed that is it for Branthwaite news over the next couple of weeks. Should we talk about a little bit more transfer news and rumours? Obviously, if you're only just joining us now, then Everton have signed Amari Benjamin on a free, former Arsenal striker, 18 years old, Chris. So if you've missed that, you can go back to that at the beginning. But probably just to finish off the show, you wrote a piece on Millwall's Joshua Stevenson, who's emerged as a bit of a potential transfer target for Everton. So what do we know about him? He's 18-year-old, bit of a prospect.
Yeah, similar in terms of the Benjamin. It's one for the future, one for the development squads, the under-21s rather than the first team, because like we've gone through before, obviously they're a bit light on talent in terms of strength and depth in those departments. There's sort of a gap that needs plugging there. Yeah, very highly thought of at Millwall. I understand there are other Premier League teams looking as well. There's a clutch of clubs, but Everton are one of those. And he can play. He's been playing centre back for Millwall's under 21s. Can also play in midfield or left back, so seems to be a bit of versatility there. But primarily at the moment, a centre back, and he was captaining them in the FA Youth Cup last season. I think he scored a goal against Leeds United in the semi-finals. Nailed the winning penalty against Chelsea in one of the earlier rounds. So obviously, cool head on his young shoulders. But like I said, like the other deal there. That we discussed, one for the future rather than right now. But I've had a little look at him, and there's an article, like you say, we've used the comparisinator again. So obviously there's lesser stats available for younger players like that, not as easy as the first team players. But you sort of a flavour about what he's like, and he's a centre back prospect who's obviously got leadership qualities. The fact that he was captain in the Millwall youth team, and he's played some under 21 football with the Lions. But yeah, one for the future, and Everton just one of several Premier League clubs who are having a look at him.
Cool. Going to finish off just on a bit of nostalgia, if that's what you want to call it. We did a piece on Damari Gray and how he left Everton. Do you think, Joe?
Nostalgia? Yeah, it wasn't one of mine. Yeah, I don't know about nostalgia.
It's obviously not nostalgia, obviously, but it is in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just read a couple of lines from Joe's piece. So I just found it interesting because I did like Damari Gray. Maybe his attitude wasn't deemed to be the best. I don't know. He came in at a really bad time for Everton, didn't he? Let's face it, on and off the pitch. But I just thought it'd be an interesting way to finish off the pod. So Damari Gray left Everton because he believed he was, quote, totally out of the picture. The winger was the final sale of the Blues summer, departing for Saudi Arabia after the Premier League transfer window closed in September, and his exit came after a public breakdown in his relationship with the club, showcased by his social media activity. I mean, that's in reference to the fact that he took to Instagram to say, we Everton fans have always been great with me, but it is difficult to play for someone who doesn't show you respect as a person. I take it you've read that piece, Chris. Yeah. What did you make of that, and what did you make of it all at the time?
Well, Damari Gray, he's one of those. You probably look back similar to Marcus Bent when he was at Everton. Everton were one of the teams who sort of did well at getting him for a knockdown price. See, Bent, I think they paid 450,000 for someone who'd gone for like about 3 million early in his career and ended up having that great season when Everton finished fourth. Damari Gray never really hit those heights, but the fact that Rafael Benitez got him for 1.7 million from Leverkusen, loose change really in Premier League terms, and decent service in difficult circumstances for a couple of seasons. I remember actually I was there at the Etihad when he scored that wonder goal. That was a great one. Obviously, just before
papered over the cracks.
Yeah, fortunately it probably did. But yeah, it was a great moment. But that's the thing; it showed you what he was capable of on his day. But the problem was, moments like that, highlight reel sort of moments like that, were too few and far between, and that's probably why Everton ultimately ended up getting him for such a low fee. We knew he was capable of moments of magic like that, but he probably then goes several months. I don't even know if that, off the top of my head, might have been his last goal for Everton actually. The one at Manchester City. I remember him being forced into action as emergency centre forward for that Bournemouth game because Everton didn't have any available strikers. Fluffed a.
I thought he played well as a centre forward sometimes.
He did. He could do a job, couldn't he? But yeah, I remember him fluffing a close range header from that point. In terms of him and Sean Dyche, obviously there's been some sort of breakdown there towards the end. The fact that I think Everton felt that they were going to because they got the big fee for Alex Iwobi just before the deadline, that Gray was going to stay on, but he spent most of the summer thinking he was going to move on anyway. I think he was away with Jamaica at the CONCACAF Gold Cup or something, and then he ended up going Saudi anyway. It's an interesting one. Damari Gray and Sean Dyche last week, it was both their birthday on the same day, so I don't know whether cards were exchanged. I certainly don't think they had a joint party.
No. I've overlooked some of the comments, Chris, so we actually did discuss this, and I don't know why I haven't brought it up, but any updates on Illiman and Dai? I mean, there's no major updates, is there? Because we're kind of just waiting on an announcement, aren't we?
Yeah. My understanding is it's done, and we're just waiting for Everton to make an announcement. Obviously, a prudent move. The fact that we've gone from June to July, the fact that Everton didn't have to do any more deals, don't put it in last year's book, get it in the new book. So that's why it's probably gone over the weekend into now. But in terms of announcement, you might have noticed I've been checking my phone as we've been there, because we don't know. It could come any point this afternoon, but we just don't know at the moment. But yeah, my understanding is it's done. I'm just waiting on the announcement. But yeah, it's not there just yet.
Yeah, there's nothing to suggest, or we've been told that it's not going to happen, though, is it?
No, nothing that I've heard.
Trev the Blue, just on Gray, said it didn't help that we didn't have anyone to get on the end of his crosses.
No, that's a good point, actually, to be fair. But the problem was, though, that just how many times would he actually cross the ball?
He'd always cut inside, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he could. Like you say there, he did it against, again, a magical moment against Arsenal, but few and far between. Yeah, he'd rather than cross it, he'd cut inside on that right and try and get a shot on himself. Maybe that was part of the problem as a winger. He should have been putting more crosses in rather than sort of cutting inside and having a go himself.
I keep saying final point, but actual final point here. So I'm sure it's well known, and Blues will have checked the fixture list, but pre-season friendly, Everton are going to go to the Sligo Rovers on Friday, 19th of July, for the first pre-season friendly this summer. Obviously, probably going to be a special one for captain Seamus Coleman.
Definitely. Obviously, the club where he started his career before his famous 60 grand move. And I mean, we could go into another podcast here, but where does that stand amongst Premier League all-time bargains? It's got to be right up there. The emotional return for Seamus. He's committing himself to another year at Everton now. He's already broken the Premier League appearance record for the club. I think he's even possibly closing in on Dixie Dean in a place in the top 10, and which is interesting because there's the connections there. Dixie Dean went and played for Sligo after his Everton career later on. But it'd be interesting one going over there to League of Ireland club. They're obviously in the middle of their season because they play, I think, the spring to autumn season. So I know Joe Thomas is going to be over there. Who knows, I might be there too. But certainly for those travelling Evertonians, I mean, it'd be a great experience. These are the sort of teams you want to play pre-season, have something a bit different. Have a bit of the old crack in Sligo. So yeah, I'm sure it's one that the Blues are looking forward to on and off the pitch.
Pint of Guinness as well.
Yeah, is that just Dyche?
Yeah, maybe. I'm not a fan of Guinness myself though, so I don't know about you. Anyway, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I think we are covered it there, like you said, and Dyer, we understand. We're just waiting on the announcement for that one, and hopefully looking forward to things continuing in the next sort of element of the summer now, with about a few more faces potentially coming in as well as going out.
Absolutely. Okay, well, that's all from today's show. Chris, if people want to send feedback on Twitter, what's your handle?
At C Beasley Echo.
C Beasley Echo, and I am at Ian Kroll1. Nice and simple. Please give us your support and hit the like button. Give us a share and subscribe to the show. Obviously, if you subscribe, you get notifications when we go live each week. And as mentioned earlier, this podcast, the audio side of the podcast, will be on Apple Pods and Spotify within the hour or two, depending on how busy I get. Also follow us on Facebook, which is Everton FC Liverpool Echo. So yeah, I've been Ian Kroll, joined by Chris Beasley, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.